feel safe next to you, Nino.
Yeah.
You know, you can put some more pep in your step, Bailey. It's okay.
I'm sorry. Are you blaming me for being old?
A little
Respect
bit,
your
yeah.
elders. Come on.
Yeah,
now.
I think it's like the
How you
phone
doing, Judge?
filter.
I'm just fine. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Hey, how many judges did you shoot up today?
No.
Yo, Logic K! Thank you for the
just
1K
waiting on
biddies.
Oh yeah. Lying isn't your strong suit, there,
And if
Mr.
I
K.
did, obviously not too many, right? I think we got the remaining judges here.
Oh,
This
hey,
is
well,
pretty
there's
much
not too many of us left, to be honest.
Yeah, this is actually almost every remaining judge. I think we're missing like 2.
Just Gatsby, right?
She was awake
Gatsby
earlier, and
is-
then she went back into her apartment to go watch daytime soaps or whatever.
Yeah. There's some
Norman,
couple probationary
how are you,
judges.
Norman?
Okay, I'm doing well.
Last time I
Doing
saw
well,
you,
well.
you were slaying and banging in the courthouse.
Yeah. Last time I saw you, you were doing the same.
Well, that's neither here nor there. I mean, this is about the future, right?
It is.
Well, who knows
Yes,
what
it
it's
is.
about, honestly. I do have some questions if we want to.
Anonymous, thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
Curious, specifically for the judges, and I mean, I guess the lawyers. Is the only law
Yeah,
we have the
exclamation mark
Constitution
record,
and the
guys.
legislation and the penal code?
That's basically
I'm
everything.
gonna put
though.
the
If
music
it's not
down so I can hear
legislation,
better.
penal code or, yeah, if it's not in those areas, it's not really law. So.
Is NA gonna beat out
Correct.
the morning
Out of
crew?
curiosity,
Late night
the case that
versus
was thrown out today. What do you think?
who's more patriotic? That's my
the
question.
reason for that would have been, if you could, say, if you're allowed to, that is. I don't know if that's crossing the line, but maybe we could hypothetical it if we really had to
Well,
look at it that way.
Abby,
I should point out that
did
he's
you
the only one who
manage
can speak on
to
his
let the
reasoning,
others know we
considering
will
he resigned.
be
The only way we can really
pushing
glean
the
from his reasoning
meeting
is what he posted on the docket.
a little?
We don't want to be putting words into his mouth at this point. It's just,
Right. I know what was said, and that's what I'm
can't
saying.
speak
It's
for
just
him.
my worry is, and it's even to do with my prosecution, is if we're to throw something out or even prosecute somebody, and there's not the written specifics of the legislation or the law that was broken in the sentencing on the docket or whatever, how is it possible anybody would trust, what is said in something like that?
What do you mean? Like, how could they have trust in the institution itself?
Right. So consider mine. Obviously, I was screaming while I was getting my sentencing. But if there is no fundamental argument to why there is, jurisdiction for the police officers up there, written at the end of the court proceedings, how is anybody to, trust or respect the outcome of that, or understand what the law was that was broken?
well,
Sure.
as
So I can speak to that.
Alright.
As you just acknowledged, a lot of the, at the end there was 5 minutes of you and I yelling back and forth with each other, where I was attempting to establish that verdict, read it out clearly so that you could understand, and obviously you were in disagreement at the time. Could it have been published? Yes. Do I still have it? Yes, and I can do so. It's not an issue.
Well, it's not so much only that. I mean, yes, that would help, but at the same time, if you were to post something on the docket, are we able to then use that as a reference, or like what sort of law would that even be deemed as? Is it? It's not precedent,
Absolutely.
obviously, but
So, could you speak up by chance?
oh my bad.
It'd be precedent. I can give you an example. Like for Mr. Ferrara here, he had a court case just this afternoon. He appealed the matter for trace smoke, where the police arrested him and charged him with felony obstruction of justice because he refused to track his motorcycle that was stolen. Because they thought it was going to lead to the to the apprehension of someone who had assaulted a police officer. I ruled that was wrong. I ruled that the individuals still had their Miranda rights, regardless of whether they were a victim or a suspect or anything otherwise. And I articulated as such on the docket, right? That's all
I don't
spelled
think
out there.
maybe they didn't want
It's
PD.
all
I don't
spelled
know.
out in plain text. And now, if Mr.
Even I
Ferrara
don't
or
know
any
the
of the
full
attorneys here,
intent of the
have a
meeting.
case like that going forward, something where something similar is charged, they can cite that filing, and they can.
I'm still
introduce
trying to
as
figure it
evidence.
out.
Right. My question would be though, is if our constitution and legislation is the law, and the only law that we impose, is your opinion of how the law should be enough to justify something changing like that? For instance, if you believe something of guilt has to be over a certain level, why is this not a part of our due process? Why do we not
Agreed.
understand what our guilt requirements is? If it isn't law, then how do we enforce or enact something like that?
Because at some point the legislative branch or the judicial branch is left to
I think-
interpret the laws that have been established, right?
Right.
There's a certain matter of interpretation that's required. If I were to look at that as plainly using the same example of, oh, he didn't give information to the police and the police weren't able to get the the arrest on this guy. Did he obfuscate information? Technically, on a literal sense, yes. But you have to take that part and parcel with the recognized common law through Miranda v. Arizona and make that interpretation that even though he could have done something, we have laws on the books that say that he was not required to. There has to be some level and amount of interpretation that goes into the matter.
Okay. So, if I was to ask you based on, obviously, I'm going to be very biased in my opinion. Where in legislation would you say that there is jurisdiction for any LEO in Blaine County?
So the thing that we drew on, in making that verdict specifically was the PCP 2.0, which had
Right.
empowered the powers that were sitting at the time.
Just before you go further, can you just read the first line of the PCP 2.0?
Sure. Grab my tablet here. In an effort to bring the various law enforcement departments acting within the boundaries of Los Santos into the blanket of checks and balances that every integral branch of government presently enjoys.
That's. What are the boundaries of Los Santos?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because that's what I was going through when I made the verdict, right? Go to the third bullet point under examples of powers that the mayor's office reserves, where it reads, quote, the formation of other law enforcement departments as the need arises in other regions of Los Santos beyond the city. Coverage is important.
Right, but you see it says an example of power that they reserve, which means for them to apply the power, it has to be done through legislation. It isn't just created because they have the power to do it. So, for instance, if you in your constitution, it says you have the authority to create legislation, that doesn't mean the legislation is created until it's created. So why exactly would an example of power be equal to the power when the first sentence exactly says that Los Santos and its boundaries is the current law enforcement area?
Because again, it requires some amount of interpretation rather than it is anything spelled out clearly, sir. That is my opinion, and I'll stick to it.
Right.
And I believe that we're going to fundamentally disagree there.
Well, here's
Right, so
So
just-
hold on. Because of that, right? And this is a foul. I'm sorry. Do you need to be dramatic over there, Murphy?
Oh no, I was just trying to like get comfortable.
Oh,
I'm trying to soak it in.
well, and I think you understand.
It's a good
at this
conversation,
point,
but
I've
you don't have
had
to weigh in
multiple
on everything. You know what I
conversations
mean?
with yourself and other individuals that it is once again open to interpretation. Would be someone else that does it differently. He does it differently than I would as well. But with that being said, the fact that it was argued does beget an actual conversation as to, well, if it's not clear and if we are disagreeing, then there needs to be a commonality that we can agree upon, which is
The
something that we
Constitution.
have been diligently working on. And I mean, I don't think it's quite ready to share, but I can give you some of that information if, as a result of a fair amount of this.
I think It's the issue that arises. I understand the interpretation of the law, but what law are you interpreting? Are you interpreting the? No, this man over here. You said it's his interpretation of the law. Are you interpreting the example of powers as the law?
Well, the empowerment was to create that department. Then the commissioner went about through that role and created that department. That department being
Right.
the BCSO. That would be an execution of the powers outlined within that legislation.
Right. So why would somebody, if they had the power to do that, need to write it when it's DOC? Why was that legislation created to empower them and have that jurisdiction?
The DOC legislation came prior to the. I can't speak for
Right.
the decisions of the council. Maybe Mr. Walker there could.
Right, but you're missing the point. Why do they have to define jurisdiction in legislation for it to be legitimate, but this man doesn't, if it's the same authority? You understand the point? So it's not that your interpretation of the law is wrong. You're interpreting a law that doesn't exist yet. That's the problem. If you were to say to somebody, and this is why the people are fucking insanely furious with things like this, if you can't justifiably point out the legislation or law that you're referring to that's written, then it isn't law. How do you have jurisdiction? So think about the precedent you set here. If something says you have the power to do something, that means that you are currently within that power. So if I have the power to become the president, why am I not the president right now, sir?
Because the process would need to be detailed for that in order to occur. The process was detailed for the creation of the department within the same legislation that I'm referring.
As an example, yes.
It's all encompassing throughout the entirety.
Well, if I have the power to become the president, there's an example in which I could do it, then I should be the president. What's the difference? I don't understand how you can argue that.
See, because you're speaking in hypotheticals now, and I don't know that that's particularly constructive.
Well, it isn't a hypothetical because I could become the president of the United States of America, right? It's within my rights to be able to do that. Why would I not be able to do that?
I mean, I would ask you to point to me where we have that legislated, though.
Well, we're talking about America, the country, not our law. If I went over to New York and I was living there and I had the rights, like everybody else, to become president, I'm not the president until I have enacted that and it is written. The law, legislation, right? So if I have the power to create a police department and I don't write it down in legislation, then why would it exist yet? I don't understand how you argue this.
Again, it's a matter of interpretation at some point. And we can go in circles around. We can go in circles on this.
Well, this is the problem.
Towards
Which
what
It's
John was
an
referring.
important point.
Yeah.
It's a very important point. So, an example of power to you means that is created already. That's what you're saying, right? In your interpretation, an example of power means it is created.
It doesn't necessarily mean that it's already been created. There was some time that lapsed between the PCP passing and the creation of the department itself. Now, again, I can't speak to the specifics of how that happened. Again, maybe Mr. Walker over there might be able to refer you to, as he's sitting on the council. He would be aware as being part of the mayor's office. Maybe he could inform you.
If a law isn't written, does it exist?
Does there need to be a law to establish a police department?
A jurisdiction, yes, there does.
Yeah,
actually.
Of course. Like why? What?
That's why it's written there.
So I'm okay. So can I ask like a clarifying question? Because why do you believe? Because it seems you're suggesting that not all law needs to be written, and that some laws are just inferred out of thin air. That's what I'm kind of getting.
No, there's no inference. I'm pointing specifically to a piece of legislation that was published.
Right, but are you disagreeing that law would need to underline the requirement for like a police department, jurisdictions, etc.? And
no, I'm simply stating that the power was outlined in the legislation that was in question.
So
I guess the question I'm asking is in the creation of that department. Suppose the commissioner exercises that power. Is that required to be through legislation, or can they just do that with the powers instilled by that legislation that already exists?
Well, it says you can create the department, but that isn't creating the jurisdiction and legislation. A department is a completely different authority to the jurisdiction that it's bound to.
Sure.
It's just
so again,
a
it goes
separate
back to
type of authority.
What are we talking about?
either way. What we've been working on in the days since, and John was starting to mention, are some overworks and overhauls to kind of patch up some of these matters that are being brought forward. John, you're going to be most familiar if you want to step into the conversation.
Yes. Give me a sec. There's quite a lot that has been transpiring over the last few days. I understand that there has been some unrest, actually a lot of unrest between individuals within this city, as market individuals, it's okay right here, others that have taken actions upon themselves to prove their points, right? And as I've said on Twitter, verbally over there, it's your points have been hurt. But believe me, I understand, and we understand where you are coming from with a lot of these, and with Soze's as well. What I don't want to have are these circular conversations where we keep going around the same thing. I'd like to move forward, and in a way so that is using the words that we have, not weapons. So first off, one thing that we have, and it's not 100% finalized, we're getting there, is revised constitution here.
Yeah!
Where everything and anything that we create has to be referenced back to some sort.
Good! Oh my God, we did it.
Within the Constitution.
And that's a collective we, to be clear.
Whether that be the basic human rights and freedoms, as well as, for example,
God
right to
damn it,
healthcare,
look at
right to
this
privacy, right
fake
to dignity,
RP, guys.
Basically,
Oh,
any
man.
laws or legislation would then be returned to our basic human rights. Those can then be argued in court, through jurisprudence, through proceedings. Those can be set as precedent as well. All these things will enable us and everybody to start shaping how we operate here. And you're talking about jurisdiction as well. We all have, as a collective on top of it, sat down and worked out a proposal for those jurisdictions. And we'll recognize multiple legislative authorities inside of the state.
Thanks for messing with my sleep
not-
schedule with great
we are not the state.
RP
These are
AMD. Tired all day. .02:04
individualities
in
that the
Old
state
Africa,
recognizes
rolling on the
as
floor, laughing
authorities.
face with tears of joy.
Yeah.
As such, will be four tentatively. These are still subject to change. These are not completely finalized. One being the Department of Justice. Where we exist to enact and enforce. Second will be Blaine County. That would then separate Blaine County into actually having their own mayorship, as well as Los Santos. Two separate at that point.
Oh,
now, should they agree,
shit!
two mayors of the two separate counties, or governances at this point, actually coincide together and come together to complete some sort of law or legislation that it becomes known as statewide. And a state law is statewide. I think we also will have the medical association as well. We call it the medical board. All these will be legislative authorities where, ideally, we have the ability to reference back to the Constitution and things that we are going to do. Y'all have the ability at some point as well, after all these things are implemented.
I don't think there's going to be a
challenge these
console.
authorities. These are all things that are being worked on as we speak. But I can't work on these if you keep damn shooting us up every damn time that we walk into a courtroom. You understand what I'm saying?
We do.
Yes, Your Honor.
The reality, I think, for majority of the people and issue we have, it's not so much interpretations of the law, it's the reality in which we seem, well, not so much with you guys, but a lot of the judges, if you talk to them, it would be backhanded conversations and, you know, no sort of structure or
A lot of those
understanding
judges
or
are
wanting
gone
to
now,
understand.
to be fair.
Yeah.
Let's also announce this. Since the the last week. All right? Individuals that have left, not that I need to publicize this by any means, but I'm going to do it for the purpose of letting you know who actually exists right now. All right? In the last week, we have had Cross step down. Rain has
Wait.
obviously resigned.
Cross step
Billy
down?
Glory has also resigned.
What?
There has also been the removal of Habibi, who has not been around, and one other on top of it. There's at least 5 or 6 that have either been removed or stepped down to the point where you're looking kind of at a bare bones skeleton of the people that can actually do it at this point.
Well, if I may say, I think this is the right people to do it. I
Yep.
think the bad eggs have
Yep.
left the barn.
I agree.
Sure. Can I say this? I think that this should recontextualize everything that we're discussing here. I don't think it's fair to sit here and harp upon the failings of the documentation of our past, and instead we should look to make things correct and move forward, so we don't need to worry about those inconsistencies and those incorrect documents that were holding us back in the past. You know, those things that didn't exist.
And
And
if
I-
I'm
Yes, go ahead.
sorry, if I may say, you know, as a civilian, criminal, whatever you want to call me, looking in, I think a lot of the issues came from the fact that there was a lot of holes in the legal system, and I think throughout the past few months here, there hasn't been many precedents set, and that left things a lot wide open for, you know, a case by case or letter of the law, whatever you guys want to call it, which led to a lot of inconsistencies. And then down the line, here we are. There's corruption, there's chaos, and you just never know what you're gonna get.
Well, I can speak on that for a little bit. A lot of judges were not even aware that we were supposed to be essentially the second half of the legislative authority. where our
Wait!
use of common laws and precedents were set.
What?
And that was a relatively new realization for pretty much all of us a few weeks ago. You know, for the most part, we kind of left all of the legislation and that stuff
Wait,
up to council.
how?
And with the council being so hamstrung in its ability to operate the last 2 months, it's left those holes that you mentioned. And
Angel, I'd like
yeah.
to add something that I happen to know is that
Sure.
also, you know, the administration was very willfully trying to keep the judges from having any kind of checks and balance.
Well, I agree.
power
I actually
against-
saw a formatted a constitutional amendment from Siobhan, which essentially wrote us out of it. So I'm aware of that.
They wanted you not to have authority.
They were attempting to usurp power through the pardon legislation, which did pass, giving the legislative branch full and final say over anybody who received a pardon. Mr. K, you'd be
Well,
familiar.
it
You
was
received
actually
one.
more. It was actually more than that. They essentially were going to fold the Department of Justice as a proxy legislative authority of the council that answered to them. So,
Crazy, man.
so that's obviously not acceptable. And
Did you
that's
guys
not gonna happen.
have the jurisdiction to put them in jail for treason or what?
Guys, some people.
I do.
I see
probably.
nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I could
That's
prosecute
insane.
people. So
You should.
I actually never really thought about it. I guess I could.
Well, I mean, at this point, if so, what you're saying, Bailey? What are you implying with what's happening, or what you're trying to do here? Like, what's the fundamental thing that's happening? What's the TLDR for everybody that is, you know, not us, the not so
It's TLDR.
intelligent masses.
Yeah, don't trick yourself there, Sozea. You've argued things quite well. So, TLDR. We have an upcoming mayor election. It's going to be 2 mayors. We're going to have basic municipalities underneath those recognized areas. You're going to have Blaine County, you're going to have Los Santos. Each will have their own mayor. We have lawyers here that have the ability at this point, and we will be publishing guidance at some hopefully
I'm a
soon,
little
of how we
scared
can
about 2
argue,
mayors when
interpret,
there's only
or
3 of us
petition
running.
basically for laws to be enacted. Whether that be changed, whether those times be changed.
I don't give a fuck. I'll
At
take
the
Los
same
Santos,
time,
bro.
Individuals that are elected, should they abuse the power that they are given, including myself and others, do have the power to undergo what is an authority review. No longer are individuals untouchable. They can be. So what we have is petitions that can be signed.
Including us, mind you.
Correct. We are not untouchable. I've been here for a long time. Please don't touch me. I like where I'm at. Just please don't kill me. Anyway, but we don't want unchecked power, and if something does get out of hand, there needs to be the balance around it. And if that balance doesn't exist, well, then we have democracy doesn't exist. At that
This is what me and Soze talked about
Can
this.
I ask a question about the whole mayor situation? So there would be a mayor of essentially the city, and then a mayor of the North Pot, right?
of Blaine County.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And would that would the laws be slightly different in each area, or is it all going to be the same
Yes.
set of laws?
Each municipality will be able to set its own laws. They cannot supersede state law, but they can set their own individual laws for their jurisdiction. Yes.
So, for example, if you shoot someone up there in Sandy Shores versus if you shoot someone in the city, you might get a different sentencing.
Something akin to attempted murder, I think, would keep state law, right?
Okay, just like the small
So-
stuff.
I think it really depends on a lot. Yeah.
I guess it will depend on what's passed. How's the so when you say they're authorities, what's the level of authority they have?
Yeah,
terms of,
that's
like, so
confusing.
right now, the mayor has the council to pass authority. Is it the same level that would be for each mayor?
I think this is
For
overcooked.
the respective
Sorry.
municipality,
Correct.
it would be.
But if
do
they
off the
actually
bat,
agree upon it and
personally.
they come to agreements, it'll be recognized statewide.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what if it was legislation just for like, is it only criminal based, or can they do I don't know, say rights based stuff where it's like, changing how searches work or whatever? Can they
Well,
push
so-
something to be statewide?
If they're in
So-
agreement, yeah.
Sure, in agreement, but essentially we still have the base constitution, which will have individual rights that are outlined and declared. And if a municipality were to bring about laws that could question the unquestionable rights of a citizen, obviously it could be reviewed and challenged and struck down based on that measure.
I
So-
mean, I think at the end of the day, the fact that anybody can have a review put in is probably what the people needed all along. And it's not. I mean, it's funny that certain people are leaving.
How do they
before this
pass
comes in,
things?
but like now, when we see a dumb decision or something that's stupid, we have a way to, I guess, speak or have the people speak for us. So that's at least how I felt stuck in a hole for the last 3 weeks. Not being able to do anything because the power structures in a way where only we are accountable for the law, and police aren't prosecuted, judges aren't necessarily prosecuted. Everybody has a different level, and obviously being an officer before this, I understand. I'm not trying
Doesn't
to
this inherently make
detain police officers, because there's a bit more to it than that, but not everybody has the same morals. But I mean, if we got a path out, then I guess that's what the people wanted. The
There is
laws
a path
become
forward.
So
Yeah.
you bring up a good point there, and I guess I failed to mention there. If you're not following what he's understanding, is this doesn't just apply to us, right? It is officers. Say, I'm just going to use, I don't know, Riker. It just came in my mind real quick. Say he does something that, or enact something, whatever the hell it is, and you all have evidence with it, you can initiate that review on him as well. Everybody. I mean, everybody would be subject to it, not just
So-
us.
if a police officer, EMS, anybody did something somewhat questionable that we couldn't.
I can speak to that. So I have actually been appointed before he resigned as the overseer for the police, which is not what it sounds like. It's actually an acronym. Essentially a prosecutorial authority that oversees government employees like the police and EMS and whatnot. So say, for example,
My
Ken
concern
Presley
would
were to
be,
go out
how do
there
you
and,
get
try to
state
commit some
change?
crimes on someone, or steal things from them, or attempt to murder someone.
The-
our body would be responsible for pushing charges.
I don't
against
know how
them
things
and making
would.
sure that they're held accountable to the same letter
I'm gonna
of the law
ask in a
that
second.
everyone else in the city is held accountable to.
This is because this
That right
sounds
there
like
is a
IRL
million a year.
Congress.
Can that start
Yeah.
now? Because there's a lawsuit that I'm going to put
Because
up to the
IRL
HIC
Congress
actually, for
is
doing
stuck
that
in
exact thing.
limbo. You know, Democrats
Yes,
versus.
I'm actually just been working on this oversight constitutional stuff with the rest of the justices. I haven't had much time to put thought into how this will be fleshed out, but it will be more
Yeah.
than just me. It will be a department.
So with there being 2 mayors and 2 counties, how would the whole council system work?
It's
Two
not
different
going to be a
Great
thing.
Well,
question.
No council.
So, well, the way you said it, right? The authorities can create a council, right?
Yes.
They still have the powers to do whatever they want.
Oh.
So, I assume if someone was to become mayor, they could say in their speech or whatever the fuck they're trying to sway what they're going to pass in legislation when they become mayor, and then it happens. So the council would be there, everything would be there if they wanted it there.
That's
So
basically correct. Yes.
So if
I guess
Nino
the
gets
good thing with
elected
it
the
is-
mayor of the city, he could say, well, there is no council, essentially.
You can, but you then run the risk of everything falling back on your
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So
So,
it
he has to
becomes,
pass that legislation and it would be seen, correct?
Correct. So, if you give or separate the power, the authority, the individuals, I mean, it's almost like, as a collective, you are one, but in regards to how people operate, if you consolidate it into one, the authority or the review that may happen will happen to you. But if you, as an individual, want to take that risk on, that is up to yourself. If you decide that you want to abuse that, then you are subject to be removed, most likely.
To understand. Sorry, just real quick. Am I and this may not be exactly what you're asking, Kay. I think it's maybe the question's more aligned with previously the cabinet was sort of like state level mandated division of voting power. With this new system, it sounds like the mayor, the cabinet is going away, and the mayor has a choice for a cabinet, but ultimately it does come down to a singular vote, right?
Well, he can
For
create
his
those
authority,
additional
yeah.
powers if he wants. I mean, he could create legislation creating these new positions.
So
I think what they're saying is that the judges become the body that pushes back against something that's unconstitutional or illegal, as opposed to the council
yes.
having dissent.
Not the only
Well,
body, mind you.
anybody
We'll be one
can.
of them. Yes.
Not the
by
only
the
right.
sound of it, so
We will just be one of them. That's our main purpose. But yes, anyone could oppose this stuff.
Okay.
so
But further, it would incentivize you, Nino, to, as you seek your political aspirations here, to flesh out what you believe a cabinet or a staff should be, so that
Yeah.
if something were to come up after you're potentially elected, say there's an issue with the hospital, you have a medical advisor that can
Right.
maybe fall on instead of just yourself, right?
So yeah,
that's going to
absolutely.
be on you to flesh out.
I think so. If I'm understanding this correctly, there is no council anymore. You have the choice for a cabinet.
There is no state mandate.
Okay.
Yes.
There's nothing to say that you can't create your own. There's no longer a council of eight that is everybody.
Okay. The
So-
second question I got is, what is the state level voting structure? How do you prevent the deadlock?
What do you mean? In terms of like creating laws between municipalities, or
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, there's going to be certain areas of the law that affect the island itself, right? So previously you had the council. Now, from my understanding, there's going to be 2 mayors. That's 1 vote each. They got to agree for a change of higher levels of legislation. How do you prevent a deadlock when it's a 1-to-1 vote?
The legislation that you'd be seeking to propose would be enforced on a local level, and it would be adapted. It would be adopted as state level, should both sides agree. It's not saying that you can't create legislation and enforce it in Los Santos if you're the mayor of Los Santos, right?
Well, let me give
It's
you.
just that wouldn't necessarily apply to the county.
I'll give a more practical example, right?
Okay.
Gun legislation, right? One county says non-felons should be afforded the right to a weapon. The other county says it doesn't. Is it deadlocked now for 3 months?
Well, depends on the county, right? You can change it for your local county if you're the mayor, because you're the authority there, or is it
yeah,
But-
not how it works?
something to consider is that you know, these differences between the counties would be what makes them so unique. You know, not
I
everywhere is
see.
supposed to be the same. And so while you might define as deadlock, I would envision it as a different culture and a different community
Oh,
you're seeking to
okay.
cultivate.
See,
You know?
sorry, I was under the impression that the existing legislation would inherently be state level. But it sounds like
Some
all of
matters of
these
it will be.
things.
Some will. I mean, we still have to go through and revise some
Yeah.
things, but
So
I
is
got
the constitution? Is this the stuff you're talking about? Is that a new constitution, or is it what is this all based off exactly? The authorities and whatnot. Is it just changing our constitution, or what's the? How's that work?
So there is a modifications to the current existing constitution, but the main thing is essentially re-amending and adding a bunch of new articles to it and removing ones that are superfluous or don't really belong in a constitution, to essentially add in and enshrine people's rights that they inherently have, so that they're not just, you know, willy-nilly and can be changed at will. You know, these are immutable rights that people have.
If
That
I'm
would be-
understanding this correctly,
Would be
pretty
considered the
much
Constitution
every
the law above legislation.
I think it
so that's
really comes
always-
down to like where's the
That's
line of
everything should be
state
referred
versus
to.
So,
non-state.
original
Legislation can't go
document.
against the Constitution,
That is
like it is
correct.
currently, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Well,
And it sounds like
with the appeal
everything
thing,
minus
is that-
murders.
so can you only appeal to review or whatever you said it was on a person, or can you also do it on a piece of legislation? Like, can we group signatures or something and force a vote? Or,
I understand
you
the
know, something to
practicality
change
of it, but
legislation that
like
we don't
the
agree with?
problem is we don't know
Yeah,
where the
that's
line is,
There's
There's an
right?
avenue for constitutional law review.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily outside of the confines of a traditional trial. The constitutionality of a law can be challenged itself.
If
Interesting.
you want to
That's
assemble
probably wouldn't
people, which is
be-
your right to assemble, and for example, to petition.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about a
all four
deadlock.
things to be
I
changed.
personally think there should be a
is
governor and then
discussion,
two
as to how
represent
many
like
there's all right now.
2 mayors.
But those will be heard. Now, is that too many, too little? What is that threshold? That's up in the air.
Without a
But yes,
deadlock,
if people do assemble with
I the deadlock is the
something
scary
that's
bit.
common that they would like to change, they have the power to contest that.
Okay.
I have a
Sounds like a democracy.
Something like that.
I have a
Fundamentally
question.
speaking,
How
Go
did
for it.
If the line
how
is
was
very high where the
legislation passed that went
Constitution is the
against
only
the
state
Constitution
thing,
to begin with, and also
Can you
we're talking
point out
about
a
all
specific
these
piece
checks
that
and
was?
balances.
but if the line is very low where most of the
current
current legislation becomes
Once again,
state,
you all have the ability to review all authority as well. If you find that we do something that is unbecoming of our position, that you say, Mr. K says that Judge Bailey here has been writing some very harming or
I'm not scared to
inducing harm to the
listen,
actual
pussy. I ain't
government
scared.
or
I'm trying to make
structure
sense.
that we
I'm
have.
trying to listen.
And you can cite those and provide the evidence of what things have happened. You can initiate a review on my own big.
But who reviews it?
Basically anybody can be impeached or, I guess, punished.
The problem is we don't know what this
That's the
looks like,
idea.
right?
When you ask who reviews it, from my understanding, for judges specifically, I believe it would go to a independent third-party review that is not of the state.
Okay. What was the issue
Oh,
of how? My question is, how was it even possible that legislation that went against the Constitution was being passed? Was
Mhm.
that because of Crane or other laws
Well,
that are in
I-
place?
Can you specifically refer to what legislation that would be?
Well,
'Cause
SOSA
I'm not
has
sure.
a bunch of
I-
them, but the one I
well-
can remember off my head is the, for example, the business law. In the Constitution, it says states you need to have a warrant presented to you to have any type of raid
Lawful
done, yada
search.
yada yada.
Mm,
And then on the business law, it states they can raid your property anytime they want.
Sure. So I guess the only thing I could really say into that is in the past there wasn't an enforcement mechanism for us to necessarily challenge that. However, I can imagine that, let's say, for example, you had a business and the police searched it and you wanted to sue for the constitutionality of it. I imagine you probably could have, and I would have been willing to entertain it. I don't know how it would have been entertained, but I think that it's possible the DOJ could have struck it down as unconstitutional.
Isn't that essentially what your
So-
whole
We've
case was
got a-
about, Jose?
There's yes, well, sure. There's a lot of things with inconsistencies on, I wasn't sure if the Constitution was considered the same level, what it was, and honestly, I don't think it really matters at this point. The reality of it is,
Yeah,
for
I
me,
agree.
if we can push forward and actually
This sounds
see
really
everything that's
cool. Like I
changing and
said,
vote to remove it or revote to remove somebody
the
if they abuse power.
I think this is gonna
we're
be fucking
resolving all the
cool.
issues we had that we feel. Well, I feel created this situation. We've got.
We need to convince Osvaldo to take Polito.
Listen,
Wait,
I don't
he's
wanna
only got
necessarily
Polito
make you guys
supporters.
panic or anything, but I am not confident that everybody who voted on council legislation actually read the oath, which is a requirement for them to be able to join the council. So, if that's the case, I'm not sure any legislation would even be legal if that was to, go over. Maybe Murphy could tell us there. Does everybody say the oath that joins the council? Every single person?
Like
No.
say it out loud on like a book or something.
Crane, the mayor, everybody.
Yeah.
I was never
Anybody
sworn
that's in
in.
the council.
I can say that right now. I was never sworn
No.
in. I should have been.
No.
Well, there you go.
Well,
There you go.
So people voted on legislation that weren't a part of a council, sat in on meetings that weren't a part of the council, and well, every piece of legislation is I guess not done how it was intended.
I mean, I wouldn't say every piece, but if that is indeed true, I would say that there's essentially some very serious foundational questions about a lot of them. Yes.
Did Crane ever say the oath to join the council?
I don't think any of us were actually available
Yeah,
to see that unless it was
council was
publicly
created
done.
before I was even hired as a judge, so I couldn't answer.
Yeah, I don't
he
know
was
if
like
Murphy
an
Wait.
interim
was
there.
city manager prior to the formation, so he was like grandfathered in.
wait.
I
So
think
there
anybody
are
was
no
there.
laws.
I don't
right
want to
now.
speak. I don't want to speak on his behalf. He
Well,
may
the
have or
Constitution's
may
there.
not
It's
have.
authority, no matter what. So I'm just like
Okay.
I'd have to question it. I mean, listen, if
I mean, that's fair.
if the council legislation does say that the council needs to vote on something for it to be, law, then maybe there is a very questionable thing due to their whatever the fuck oath that they're meant to say to even join the council. I believe it's the second council post says they all need to say the oath to be recognized as
Yeah.
a council member or some bullshit.
I mean, that
Um,
might be a good argument for us to review and go through these legislation pieces again.
Like I said, I'm not saying this because I want to go sue people. I'm saying this so you guys can understand that there might be bigger things you need to worry about if some of that legislation is iffy. That's all.
I appreciate that. I mean, we were very likely going to do an internal legislative review and probably remove stuff that didn't fit
Yeah.
anymore. So
Is there
I mean,
Wait, so who's
yeah,
gonna?
I'm gonna say at the end of the day, if the legislation makes sense, there ain't no point in
Mm.
moving it anyway. If it's gonna tie into whatever you guys are doing, so.
Well, there may be
is there
parts of it that are no longer accurate.
Mhm.
For example, like the business
I'm
one that
very
you cited, Mr.
confused how
Taylor's.
this is gonna
The
work.
mayor signing off with it and Chief Justice. That obviously would have to be.
I don't
altered.
know how this is gonna work. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay, so that shouldn't have happened, is what you're saying.
Well,
Well,
no,
the
I'm
Chief
saying those things
Justice
still have
would
to be.
have done it.
reviewed.
So even the
Right,
gun
right.
example.
There
Wait,
was
so
authority
you
to do
buy
it if
the
Chief Justice
gun,
signed it, so
you use the
technically had
gun
powers
in
either
the
way.
wrong county.
Right. I'm
But
just
whether
pointing
or
You
not
have
it-
now to
if it
prove where
changes
they
at this
did it.
point, the structure that we have, that also needs to be adapted to the structure to be fitting
Right,
towards
right.
the situation we're in.
there's still a lot of paperwork to be done, basically.
Yeah, sounds like it.
With
Well-
that being said, stop shooting us up. Thank you.
So
Well,
Yeah, it's
I-
hard to
I-
do
I
paperwork
gotta-
when we can't meet.
I got two questions. One is, with the new constitution, has there been any thought about wiping everyone's records?
I don't really see why that would be necessary. The penal code's not really changing.
New constitution infers new state.
Well, it's
The
amended.
state's
It's
not
not a
changing.
new
Oh,
constitution.
amended. Okay,
The-
amended.
Yeah, they said they were amending it.
Yes,
That's what I asked
Um,
as well.
the state authority is not changing. It's still the state that incarcerated people
Yeah.
in the past.
Look,
just
I'm
the
a lawyer.
same
You know, I got to
authority-
try. If I could wipe everyone, that'd be
I
the biggest
understand.
lawyer W ever.
I completely understand, but we already have processes in place for expungements, and I believe pretty much anyone
Yeah.
here could qualify for one if they really wanted it. So
The second question I got is I want to go back to the like the example about the weapon license, right? It's not very. I'm only using that as an example. Now, I can understand the issuance of them being local, but given that there's county lines, is the inference there that the police department would effectively need to see whether any crime that is transpiring remains in the confines of a of like LSP Los Santos or Blaine County and does not cross county lines during said incident? You get what I'm
So,
saying?
yeah, I understand. So essentially, the way that the jurisdictional authority is written is that each enforcement agency has jurisdiction, quote unquote, over their respective county. If I were to, for example, shoot Bailey in the head and then flee to the city, and police officer, or the sheriff's department was chasing me the whole way, and then they arrested me when I got to, the city, they could
Mhm.
That
still
wasn't me.
arrest me. They still have authority to enforce the laws.
Mhm.
But when they're within the jurisdiction of the Los Angeles Police Department's jurisdiction, the LSPD essentially take a priority and they have a say over the conduct of the officers while they are there. So, say for example, the LSPD have internal policies that restrict pitting over 40 miles an hour, and a BCSO deputy were to come in and do that, and they had different policies and they pit someone for that
Mhm.
respective speed, they would be then held liable to those new standards. Um, Essentially, agencies need to comply with each other in the way that they enforce their own agencies and their policies, or else they could be found liable and potentially sued for that
Absolutely, but I guess the
and
question
punished
is,
internally as well.
would the charging of said individual would it be based on where the crime originally occurred, or does it include where it crosses?
It would be where it originates from. So the BCSO would charge me for the shooting here, not for whatever LSPD has in there. Say they had different laws in place for it.
I gotcha.
So it will be important for the police to dictate and understand where crimes were committed, and back that up with evidence as well.
Does that include if the crime continues into another county? By the way, I'm not trying to be pedantic here.
No,
I'm
I
trying to
understand completely.
best understand like where the line is between. I know obviously Constitution's going to remain state level, and there's going to be some things that are
Yeah.
going to remain state. I'm trying to
So-
visualize where that line sort of ends.
Yeah, it's not
know?
either or. Okay, so let's say that there's state laws that says it's illegal to shoot people, and the BCSO and the the Los Angeles County and Blaine County don't have any specific laws about that. Just because the shooting people occurred in Blaine County and then shooting occurred in Los Santos County, doesn't mean that the actual punishment would change. Now, say for example, you committed criminal offenses in one county that had differing penalties. You very likely would just be subject to whatever is higher and not both. So, say for example, I can't think of a crime off the top of my head or an example, but let's say that there was a crime in Blaine County that had like a 20-month and $2,000 fine attached to it, and the same crime in LS County was 25 months and $3,000. And that crime occurred in both places. You would probably just be subject to the one count of it in Los Santos County and not both. You
Mm,
wouldn't be charged twice for the same thing. Does that make sense?
mm-hmm.
But
So-
a lot of this has not been fully fleshed out and written.
I
in
don't.
yet.
This is
is
an
my
awful
understanding
idea.
of what we discussed.
I love the. There needs to be a governor and there needs to
gonna
be
say
two
something
mayors.
else?
This is going to be a shit show otherwise. Is what I'm afraid
I was
of.
going to say,
Because what I'm pointing at, I
Go,
think,
go,
is
go.
not being considered.
being a bit optimistic about officers.
I hope I'm wrong. I do hope
then
I'm
learning
wrong.
two
But
SOPs
what I'm
when they can
pointing at
hardly understand their
is
own.
Well,
How are we gonna?
the
an SOP is
governance
just
Or
a
even law.
procedure.
in an
that
area
doesn't
makes
matter.
sense, but most
the
crime
SOPs are different
transpires
from
that
the law.
inherently you're
SOPs
going to get in a
both.
lot of
Police
deadlock
officers need to know
situations.
their laws, and they frankly should know how different counties operate.
Yeah, I'm
because
very afraid of
that is their
deadlock
responsibility.
scenarios.
And we can sit here and say, oh, well, wouldn't it be nice if they were? I'm tired of wouldn't it be nice is I think that they should put in the effort to learn these differences, and they should be willing to do that because that is their job. And if they're not cut
But
out.
maybe
to
it
be
starts
survivors.
with that,
I'm
and then
gonna be
Governor
honest.
puffs up.
Listen, if we can make fucking laws and constitution in one page, and these SOPs are 5,000 pages, you've already understanding the problem. They just need to be trained the fucking fundamentals of what they're meant to do: protect life. And that's a pretty good start. There's a good reason not to T-bone a car under the fucking
Yeah, I'm trying to
highway
think
or up
very
a fucking mountain
practically.
where you can't see where it's going, because you ain't protecting the people around you at that point. There's very simple things they just don't fucking do. That's all they need to do. I can only imagine how many fucking pages their SOPs are. That's why nobody fucking knows.
You don't
them.
need to imagine. It's about 31 pages. I wrote most of them.
Whoa.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am serious.
Someone wrote 31 pages of SOPs.
I wrote most of them, yes, and they still use them to this day.
Oh my god.
That's the biggest issue.
But the cool thing is,
don't want to know them.
here's
At
my
the same time,
alternative
but
take.
Nobody's going to read 31 pages, but
in
If
fairness,
you
a
become
lot of
mayor,
those
it's your
pages are
decision,
just
which is going to
they're
be
just
sick.
examples
So actually, you know what?
and,
I take it
pictures
back.
and whatnot.
And
The
then
actual
we
basics are still very simple, but they can
wait a
get
minute.
lost
This
in
is
all the
actually a
extra
great idea.
Exactly.
Hold on a
nonsense
second.
surrounding
There
it.
is no
why the
console.
Constitution
As
is good
mayor,
because
you
it gives a
pass it.
foundation.
If the
And
other
just
side
like if
isn't
there
doing
was
it, you make them
a little
sign it.
page at the front of their SOPs.
Hold on a
Here's
hold
the
up.
core values. Make
Hold
sure
up.
these are
Wait.
priority. You're already naturally going to know most of your SOPs because you got to think: am I doing safe things right now? Am I doing X, Y, Z? It's just it's a much easier way to get the point across instead of having to read it all. Either way, I mean that's probably something the police can discuss with themselves.
They'll figure it out.
I guess
go ahead. Finish
I was
your
just gonna say I was like, my concern is giving them too much credit. I mean, we have officers that don't even understand the difference between RS and PC.
We've always had that.
and
frankly.
as established, Rick, again, there'll be the opportunity to challenge that authority and submit it forward for review if you run into situations where that happens.
The better solution is just in the Constitution have a form of due process that is the necessities that they are bound by law. I would say would be good. I mean, we can all describe what RS or PC is going to be, right? So if it's just in legislation, then the fuck can they do? They have to do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Police exist essentially as an enforcement mechanism of the state. They don't exist separately from it. They're there to enforce the laws and to do it in a safe and effective manner. And if they can't do that, then they'll be removed.
Well,
They
maybe
don't
it
need to
is
understand
like
the law, but they do need to know RS and PC.
I agree with you. 100%. I agree with you. But something that we need to understand is that a lot of people that made the training programs in the past are no longer doing them. For example, I don't train these guys anymore. And I can tell you when I was their boss, they knew very well the difference between PC and reasonable suspicion. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of loss of care for the standards internally, and that is their cross to bear and not mine. But it's just something to consider that it is a fundamental lack of quality in their internal high command structure that has led to this. So
somebody shot 2 officers in the head in the middle of the apartments with a gun that was tied to somebody, and nobody got a warrant or a report about it.
I believe
It
it.
wouldn't have happened to be you who just looked at her, was it, Jose?
I believe it was what's his name? Conan Clarkson. He was.
Oh yes,
cops.
Mr. Clarkson.
Yeah.
I remember a PD shooting another
Wait, we
member.
were in the
Actually, I
same
would have put that
academy.
past him.
The reality for what I think is the issue, like I said, the fundamentals just need to be trained into people, and that's just where they grow from. I have walked down as soon as I came back to this fucking city. Okay, I saw police driving faster than everybody through red lights without the lights on the sidewalks, doing whatever the fuck they wanted. There was not fucking one police officer that drove past me that I thought you would be getting fucking reamed out the butthole right now and fucking cited or something. There wasn't one. Everybody was just fucking around and doing whatever. If you allow that sort of laziness just in driving and general etiquette within the public, just imagine what the police work is going to be like. You already see it.
Well, here's my opinion. I think the police have an open disdain for the law. I watch police officers intentionally not going after people who are speeding back and forth in front of them, and when I called them out on it, They immediately drove away and lied to their high command when I reported the incident to them. And
Oh, tickets do not
system is
exist anymore.
endemic.
I can tell you that.
I agree. There is no respect for the law. There is no respect for the rule of law from the police. And in my opinion, the police are an elevated street gang with state authority.
How
So
often do people
she's
get
spitting
raided?
facts.
How
It just
often get
depends on the
raided?
person, Jose.
I mean, we hand out, we look over the ones that do happen, and this is not by all means down to statistics, but I would say we sign on general more subpoenas than we do raid warrants. It is very rare. And I will say, my own person had a weapon of mine stolen. This individual did report that they even stole it from me via 911. Not only do you have the source of who did it, not only do you confer with myself, not only do I have the serial number that I gave to PD and said to them there's better damn result in a raid, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Ultimately, though, I'm sure that this can all be fixed as we continue on with our constitutional amendments, which I think is what we're here to discuss, and not really the
Well,
ineffectual
yeah.
uselessness of the PD. This can
I
all
think
be
the
fixed.
police need their own shit. Yeah, they can look at
Mhm.
that. It's yeah. I mean, it's hard to blame people enforcing the law when the law was pretty somewhat messy to begin with. At the end of the day, we're all the product of the environment, so I mean,
It's true.
hopefully they can see the change and we can all change.
Amen to that, brother.
Here's what I want to say with this, and this is what I'm going to ask of you in your respective areas that you may represent criminally, whatever, defend if you're a lawyer, or enact if you're the criminal themselves. Could you give us some time and some leeway so at this point, like what it's done is done. You have the bare bones at this point, the people that are trying to actually do something with this. Can we say enough is enough right now?
I don't think
Enough
anybody's
of shooting, you mean?
going to.
Correct.
You talking to me, Bailey?
I'm talking to everybody, and I know that there are criminal defense lawyers here as well.
Well, I'm not going to stop fucking defending people for their rights, if that's what you're asking.
This rolls into
not what he's
the question
asking.
I've been wanting to ask.
I always thought you were slick
One,
over.
okay, I've only really been shooting Siobhan and Mayor Max's people because I think they're corrupt pieces of shit that have fucking got us in this hole. Two, with the mayor being absent for over about 2 weeks now, is there talks of maybe a temp mayor coming in until the elections, or whoever the deputy mayor was stepping in? And three, what's going to happen with the current council? I mean, we got Solomon, who's been suspended for over a month now and has no clue what's even going on. I don't know if you guys even know Solomon's story.
I don't know his story, no.
His
I mean,
impeachment
Solomon,
is out of
please,
statute of limitations.
please speak on your situation.
Listen.
Well, let's let
Listen,
Murphy can
there's
probably
an
speak and
answer.
then
There's
that's
an
biased
answer
way
to
than me.
everything here has been answered. We can all do a review when this shit comes out. So we just need it to fucking happen. What's stopping us from pushing a review as soon as it drops to change or ask as a request to have a new mayor voted in? There's nothing that would stop it if
Sure.
there's logic behind it, right? So
Something to note is that the new election is coming up and very quickly. Like it's about to happen. So I don't think we're going to put in a temporary mayor or an interim mayor.
How long do we have? And also, I do want to hear you guys hear
Sounds
Solomon's
right.
story,
Yeah, I'd
because what
I'd
happened
like
to him
hear it, sure.
is a mess.
Sure.
but-
Let's answer your first questions and then let's talk about that because I can imagine it'll be a lot to talk about. So
Not too much.
okay.
Can I ask a question before that real quick too? Because I've
Uh,
got to ask it. If
Is
there's
there a
no if there's no interim mayor and hardly a council left, I have a case on docket for the DOC to reinstate. What's the point of that court case even going forward if there's going to be no council to reinstate, assuming we get a favorable verdict? Is there a plan for the
I don't
DOC?
know. There
There's
is, and I don't
discussions.
actually know what the point of your case is. I actually agree. I don't know.
well,
Frankly,
yeah.
you could leave it up, I guess, and maybe we'll pick it up as part of our discussions. But there's definitely some stuff changing with them. I don't think we've really solidified our decision though. I don't really
Yeah,
wanna
that's
say.
my
case, like civil
yeah, like I
fines,
said,
or is it,
my
like, pushing
general
criminal charges?
concern.
What's the actual
I
case?
mean,
I think it's gonna be
civil
really good
asking to
RP.
reinstate the DOC due to
I
failure to delegation
just
of duties, negligence, and that there's no
think that
reinstatement
this
having the
is
council
more
impeached for
complicated
I believe it might have been amended. Did it get? Did that end up getting repealed? I swear.
Yeah,
I
I
saw
mean,
it
it
getting
got
in
repealed.
a environment
Well,
in which
I mean, you fucked at that point. Then it's.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm unsure
I would just
there's
let them lie,
enough
So.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it was civil, maybe
mental
like a
energy
monetary thing would work,
available
but at the same
to
time,
make sure it
are
works.
you going to sit here and listen to this conversation and in good faith think it's a good thing for the laws and the Constitution that are possibly going to change to just fucking in the ass one last time?
Yeah, I think it's probably just best to let it lie. So let's
Getting from
harness
that,
those
right?
other questions so we can hear Solomon's story. So yes,
Well,
no
you answered
interim
my
mayor.
other
We'll
one
be
about
having
the
elections
mayor.
soon. What was your other
So,
question?
Well, the position of the current council, I understand they're kind of in shambles,
They'll
and
be
then that led
gone.
into they'll be gone.
Yes, after the election, they'll be gone.
Okay, well then Solomon, go ahead
When's
with your-
when's the election going to be? It sounds like everyone's in agreement that the council is mute. The current
17,
mayor is
I believe?
absent. Why why don't we bring that forward? I mean, there's no council, there's no mayor.
Because we're not
Here's,
fully
skeleton of
solidified
what
with
we're working
our.
on still
Yeah.
needs to be finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still need a
Correct.
few more days.
Yeah.
A week at most to finish this and finalize.
Yeah,
it and push things forward.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
makes sense
Let
it would
them
happen at
cook,
that
you
point.
know?
So you're,
we
Just
still
give
have
us
some
a
things to
bit.
write.
We're correct. What we're proposing to you is about 90% there, and maybe 85 right
Yeah.
around there. We still need to. There's still a few things that needs to happen.
Yeah. I
In-
feel
in
like
terms of
if
just
that should
finalizing
move
it.
forward like too early and the shit's not, is quarter half baked, that's going to be a disaster.
Yeah,
we
no,
don't
I
want-
do
we
not
don't want to
disagree.
release an unfinished product.
Yeah, we need to
Jesus
have
Christ!
for the
Listen.
candidates like Mr. Chavez and everything.
After
they
seeing
need
the
to have time
last
to.
one, I'm pretty sure you guys will last at least 7 months. All right, so don't sweat it.
at least.
At
Great,
least.
I hope to make it that long.
Does anyone have any food while we're here? I don't want
I
to
do.
pass
So
out.
as of right
yeah,
now,
come on over,
there,
come on over,
There
have some
is
food.
no mayor or council, right?
The mayor still exists and the council still exists.
Can I make those
Nothing's
in?
changed.
All
yet.
right.
It's
Hey,
just
Got one kebab. I don't know you to be both
Can I
coming
just
over here
ask
for.
ask one thing that maybe
I'm actually serving.
an
Perfect.
example of power
I'm about
isn't
to pass.
power till it's written in legislation. Can we
Uh-huh.
maybe
I'm
have that somewhere in
starving, too.
there.
what?
What did you say there?
to-
Sorry, I was hearing different voices there, Mr. Soze.
Power isn't
Because-
enacted until it's written as law.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that we could put that in there.
Give it to Murphy.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could probably come up with
thank you.
something like that.
considering the word legislation means written law, it would be great that.
Sure. I suppose we can put in some idiot proofing documentation and legislation to make sure that the very basics are understood commonly with no misunderstandings or room for questions. We can
Well, sounds
definitely do
good.
that. So Solomon, your story. What happened with you?
I was, I guess, unlawfully suspended. I wasn't informed I was suspended as deputy mayor over a month ago. Apparently, I was going to be impeached. That never happened. It's now out of the statute of limitations. It is my belief that the entire suspension took place because I was an advocate against Max and his rampant corruption, as well as that of his wife, chief of staff. At this point, I have still received no official communication from the council. I just woke up one day and had no keys. I was unable to sign into work, etc., etc. So it really is another example of Max and Siobhan and the council kind of
What's
guess
the
do-
deputy
doing what they
mayor's
wish.
role in legislation? I don't remember reading nothing about it. So
well, essentially, a lot of it was stripped away by Max and Siobhan. So the role kind of got reduced down to being a vote and a voice on the council itself.
It's like a
Yeah,
runner-up prize.
the initial interpretation understanding of the deputy mayor position was for it to be opposition to the mayor.
Oh,
Considering
it
that it
definitely
would
was
be-
that.
Yeah, that was the idea, that they'd be opposition and they would garner their own political support within the council. I don't know why that never happened. I was not in the meetings, so.
But the last meeting, one of the last matters of business
Murphy
that
needs it, Ken.
Crane dispensed with
I'll give it to him.
was saying
I'll give it
for
to him.
that to be filed tomorrow, and that was last Tuesday.
For what
and
to be filed tomorrow? Sorry.
The
My impeachment.
Okay.
Yeah, the impeachment. Crane was emphatic. He said, do this by tomorrow, because for whatever reason, Max and Siobhan were like in charge of getting the prosecution
This
behind
is-
it and all that. They just never bothered with any.
I
the
feel like
reality
the-
is, Is this not all irrelevant if legislation just
Yeah.
says you can have a vote on council at this point? He doesn't actually have powers that will, change anything if the constitution's changing. So there's no
The
point
council is a
focusing
lame
on.
duck session.
Yes, there's no point
I
in
like
us
that.
focusing any energy on people that
I think this is mostly
running
good, to be
away
honest.
from us, or there's no power to be had. What's the value? We need to just. I believe
Yeah.
the constructive shit is what we've talked about and going forward, rather than
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked Jose about the mayor thing is because all the, for example, business proposals. I've been trying to get Wu Chang approved for a while. It got denied 4
Yeah.
times because they go through the mayor. So that's why I asked if why not, for example, put the deputy mayor as the current acting mayor for because we got 2 weeks until the
Mhm.
election, which is a long time. Keep the city moving, keep things going, and clean
Well,
up
it's
what you
still
guys
going to be
can
the
for
same
now.
issue.
There's
It
still
depends. Do we want to contort the legislation or do we want to follow
I
it?
mean,
Because
at
if
that
it doesn't
point,
say it,
we would
then
be-
we technically doing
Yeah.
the same shit.
We would be in violation of the Constitution. No disrespect. Even though we are editing and re-amending and adding things to this, we do not have the authority to just appoint Solomon as the new mayor until
Yeah.
the next vote. And if we could do that, then you guys should be very concerned that we can just do that.
Okay, I see
And
what
my
you're saying.
understanding was that Siobhan was gonna try to take Wu Chang for the state. So as
Yeah.
long as like that can't
For
happen
the
and
state?
everything is good,
Well,
yeah.
I only
That's
asked just 'cause
treason.
I want to see the city keep moving and not be
Sure.
necessarily super dry until the election.
Is
I-
there
Yeah.
is
I get that.
Well, how about,
here's a question. Here's a question. Is there a way for one, me to be unsuspended because I fucking should have been over a week ago now, and two, in the interim, can I have overview of business applications so at least that can get rolling again,
Wait,
while
here's
you
the- here's
rewrite
the part to
legislation?
this. There's 2 parts
you
to that.
legally can't.
Correct.
What you're asking for is exactly what we've all been complaining about. You're asking to skip
Yeah,
into legislation
exactly.
for no
No,
reason.
Soze's
I would
right.
suggest read
We
the
can't-
legislation and see if there's a hole that could make sense. In the meantime, that's what I'm going to do personally. And if there is something that can be done, we should do it. But if what you're saying is the current legislation, then
Yeah, you can't just bend the
we shouldn't
rules.
be
That's
doing
why all
what
this is
we're
happening.
here to stop, in my opinion.
The
do
also
think
other
that's a
part of
very
the
wise
business
opinion.
side is as it's written, it requires a chief justice to also sign off on it. So as you're asking for one, there's still a second part to that that currently does not exist, and that will not be a thing now. So
All right.
it's 2 separate parts.
Here's the other question: is where is it written down in legislation that we could even vote you into suspension in the first place?
Well,
I know that they wanted to put that in, but
it's
I don't think it ever got-
all irrelevant until it's proven in court. It doesn't matter. Whatever we say is just irrelevant to everything, unless we have facts in court or something's tried or legislation says something. We're just arguing over shit that won't change the next week anyway. So
Yeah,
What's the point?
at some point, kind of like what we were saying to Rick here, it's best likely not to make 1,000 cuts to the system that's going out on its way out, right?
Yeah, I
We're
agree.
working efficiently as possible, get this new in. We'll work to have an election as quickly as possible. Once that's in, we're going to let everything kind of reform. Think of it as a kind of a reformation of our government, in
Yeah.
which those opportunities may be provided to you going forward.
I think what we can commit to is the following. We will work as expediently as we can to finalize these amendments and these new articles and amending our current existing legislation to match up with this new, not reformed constitution or state, whatever you want to call it, but essentially to get this program done and operational so that we can then announce this mayor's election as soon as possible. I understand that you want to keep things moving and not let them get dry in the city, as you said, Mr. K. It's just important to remember that we have to do this right, or we could end up in the exact same shitty position all over again. And if it has to take an extra couple days to do it right, I personally think we should spend those extra days.
Okay, I understand.
we need to bring back integrity.
Goddamn right.
That's what we
I
need.
agree.
It don't
Yes,
matter
sir.
what sides are on.
I have just a general statement to make. Since I'm here, my 2 cents. I like the notion of us operating as if Los Santos is a city within a state of the United States of America, and that we more completely adopt the United States Bill of Rights. And if this is to be a democracy, any council or cabinet that will be voting on legislative matters on our behalf, and I believe the majority of seats in that panel should be elected seats, or if not, then major legislation should be considered for public ballot votes. Additionally, I'm happy to see the common law being added all the time now, and I hope to start seeing a balanced set of common laws with more of them directly protecting citizens' rights. As of right now, the common law almost acts as a handbook of what police can do because it's my understanding that there's some common law protecting data within SIM cards. Perhaps things like that could be added into the common law, even though a lot of us know that one already. Just to have it there.
That's why I had a bar. That's why I had a bar
on their behalf. That is all.
Yeah.
Once again, there's refer back to the actual Bill of Rights, the Constitution that will have those rights of individuals, and everything must be tied back to those. Those things have arguments associated with it. Those things can be heard. As such, when those things are heard, there are guidelines that we will be putting out there that has to follow a certain format.
Attorney General,
such common law, presidents, etc. That are
how does
set
Attorney
from those.
General sound?
So it has to ensure that what we are enacting is based upon the Constitution itself.
I'm not.
Once again, if you feel a certain way about something, you can argue.
Perhaps Attorney General.
The Constitution you're amending has the rights in it, or is it the Bill of Rights?
Head of bar.
Okay, that's yeah. I mean that makes sense. Like I said, I've said this before. The biggest issue we had is because if we didn't have the Constitution levels above us to give us our rights, then our system was always going to be flunked, like was just mentioned. So, I mean, it sounds like if that's covered, then
I agree.
There shouldn't be any excuses no more.
I agree.
For anybody.
District Attorney is different than an Attorney General.
Do you guys have any other questions or concerns or anything you want to bring up to us for consideration? Continue through this process.
Is there of the stuff being cooked up? Will there be is the plan to roll it out, or will there be a period of time to sort of poke at it in an attempt to iron out perhaps some small things in advance of it being what's the word?
We are going to bring up, I understand what you're asking. We're essentially going to do all the internal revisions and weigh it up to an internal vote to make sure that there's no inconsistencies within these documentations. And then it will be implemented. And at that point, if you wish to contest or modify anything that is in effect, you're well within your right to do that via the official actions that you can take in the system. So if there's things that you notice as holes, you can exploit them or move to have them patched.
Okay.
And that kind of goes for pretty much everything.
Hey, I'm confused. Because it says Los Santos behind it and it says national, does that mean we're a country now?
I don't think so.
Oh shit! Here we go again.
Oh no,
No.
Angel and I went through this the other day.
No, this is actually the Brittany Angel Municipality San Andreas Justice Police Overseer Headquarters.
Oh, it just means the national office is what paid for it? Oh,
Yeah,
it
that's
isn't
all.
the... Oh, I thought Trump and Biden were maybe in there. My bad. I guess I got it wrong.
No, they're not in there.
Okay. Well, that was a great talk, by the way, guys. I'm glad that we had this conversation, but it would have been great if we could have done it a few weeks ago before people were brutally murdered and exploded and whatnot. But hey, we survived, so that's cool for
Meeting
America.
adjourned.
Yep.
Look, no one died.
Look at that. Is July 3rd a Los Santos holiday now?
Yeah, can we make this a holiday? The
Oh, can we?
Independence Day?
What would you want to call it? The day that 70 violent people overthrew the city's capital and forced a new form of government?
But
It's a bit of a
that's what
mouthful,
happened on
doesn't-
July
doesn't-
4th. I mean, the British
Yeah.
monarchy was arms were taken
Well,
against them, and
Depends where you're
Yeah,
at.
that's
I mean, the
British.
sun's coming up right now. It looks like it's July 4th to me.
oh
the sun's
yeah,
flying
oh
right there, so-
shit, yeah,
you
no
know what
wrong.
they do in Australia, right?
Wait, what?
Well,
What
I
are they doing
believe it is
Cousins and
July
stuff like
4th,
that.
but-
You know, they get a little
Oh.
confused.
Oh, wait, what? Saying
Sorry,
we
what
fuck our
now?
cousins?
Huh?
You talking about the
You said
South?
that. Not me.
What?
You said that.
Hey, listen, it ain't like the UK where it's real tight and small and close together. You know,
True.
Australia's
They don't
pretty
even
big.
know what's going on. It's so small over there. Like, Tom
Yeah.
was probably fucked half his cousins.
What?
Yeah, they're probably all cousins at this point, honestly.
That's just the
Even though-
Royals.
What the fuck is going
Yeah, I
on?
was gonna say even the Royals are doing that shit. So hey, maybe somebody should reach out to the police though. Might be best coming from you guys to say that maybe there's some resolution and not doing anything too crazy might help alleviate what could be worse
You know,
than what happened today.
I think that the police should start doing some crazy things internally to fix their own issues. Is what I think they should start doing.
Well, maybe
We're
they
saying
should start
is,
by reading the
They
Constitution.
They
next
honestly
week.
might need a bit of crazy to help them out here.
Yeah, they're
I mean, out of curiosity, will it matter? Like, I mean, if there's jurisdictions, wouldn't the jurisdiction have a bigger say as to ensuring their police departments are actually being trained?
I mean, nothing is really inherently changing with the police departments and their internal structure. What's happening is they're being assigned to sections and areas of the state to essentially patrol and take care of and steward these states, right? So they become effectively enforcement bodies of the municipal governments. So, I don't see why it wouldn't be impossible for the municipal mayors to influence their local police departments in their own various ways. But again, this is all for them to figure out. I'm not going to sit here and write a roadmap for what they can and should not do outside of some basic guidelines.
the
I
entire
like that
point is to
answer.
create the entire point is to create opportunity for these things to kind of establish themselves as we go forward as a unified
I
state.
like that everybody that has a power will be able to be held accountable. It's already exactly what I believe needed to happen. You don't need to shoot someone in the face to say something anymore. You can literally just fucking write a review.
I think this is more powerful of a statement than shooting someone in the face, personally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are you looking at me for?
Well,
I
listen,
don't think there's a fly over there.
nobody's blaming you, and trust me, I very much understand the pain and anguish in which the people have suffered. Okay, but at the same time, I believe some innocent lives were going to be crossed today, and I'm glad it didn't happen.
You're a hero. You're a goddamn hero.
I don't know about that, pal. I'm
Well,
just
people,
a
they
guy
do
that wants to follow
barbecue.
the Constitution.
They do barbecue on July 4th. Barbecue was about to happen. You said, nah, no meat today, buckos.
Are you vegan?
This is gonna be a lot better.
Serious?
No,
Oh.
actually,
I think this is gonna be fucking
Oh.
exciting. The only bit I'm confused on
Right.
is
Fair enough.
how they expect there to be a deadlock.
So, if any of you guys ever have thoughts, concerns, things you want to bring up, you're more than welcome to approach justice and let us know. I don't think any of us are gonna turn away honest and full-hearted conversation about any of these things. I, for one, welcome them. So if you ever want to reach out to any of us, please feel free to do so. Hopefully, we can have some more guidance from you guys in the coming days so that everyone can see the new changes.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
glad we can
Thank
talk.
y'all for putting all that effort in,
Yeah.
past and what's up to come. And
It's just the beginning, my friend. There's much more to be done.
all right.
Amen. Hallelujah. I love America.
Ain't it something when people can actually speak and enjoy the conversation? Well, listen, I'm gonna love you guys and leave you guys. I'm gonna go
I've
for a drive on
managed-
my ATV and
Have
I don't
managed
know, do
to
things that bad people do. So appreciate the talk, guys.
negotiate
Jose.
Later.
Time will
peace-
tell.
peace
Time
deal.
will tell.
with affected parties.
You guys are walking away?
The
I-
city
They could
is
I
just
mean,
now
I was,
safe.
I probably was gonna keep talking to some
You're
people.
going that way, and the
the
car
people
that
are
way,
walking
so-
away, but
I do need
Can I,
food if anyone's gonna ask other
Oh,
Yeah,
I do,
questions.
sir. I do. Your
Hey,
honor.
Kay. Hey, Kay, check that tweet real quick.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I gotta get ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? Hey Bailey, I need a retweet.
Wow.
You PR motherfucker.
The hell did you just claim?
Wow. It's true if you don't think about it, okay?
Yeah, if we all pretend that we ignored everything that just took place, then that's really absolutely
Yeah, I'm gonna
accurate.
call it Independence Day. Then at that point, I'm gonna take all the credit. Even though
Well,
you guys
you
been
know,
working on this.
Y'all claim whatever the hell you want to claim
Yes,
with it. I
I'm the
don't
hero
care.
that shot up the city and caused reform, guys. Yes, I'll take the credit.
I know
Oh.
this isn't really on the judges, but will sort of basic necessities be available in the new Blaine County jurisdiction? Like, currently the only place to buy food is in Los Santos and things like that?
Oh my god.
Or would that be on the mayor?
If I have the ability to
is
say
it?
something with it, maybe, but I don't know. I have no idea. I can't give you that much.
Fair enough.
Hold on, Ruby.
I don't
Murphy,
know
there's
with,
a restaurant like Murphy mentioned.
There's
in Polito.
businesses
Peace
that have
deal
been
made.
approved, so I think there's likely a restaurant in Grapeseed or Sandy also that I don't even know about. But there's at least one up in Polito. It's not open all the time.
Well, better go write my Wu Chang business proposal again.
Yep. All
Maybe
right.
it'll get approved.
I can help you with
I think
business
it
prop
just
if you
will.
need to.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah, I help.
I don't necessarily think it was my proposal that was getting me denied.
Yeah, it was a completely legal proposal.
Yeah, I had a storefront, and actually, you know, I probably have the most functioning business without actually being approved business.
When did Clarkson called me?
We'll get out of here. Any other questions?
I think it
y'all
was
have?
this one.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
felt good.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Colonel.
thanks.
Need a ride, Murph?
Bye.
I think I'm just gonna go sleep in a book.
Judge Bailey?
Y'all have a good one.
Sorry, didn't
know much
save
about-
number.
Yo.
Will,
I wasn't sure
will
what
the
you were
deputy
saying in your
mayor
text,
still
but,
be elected, or will that be appointed
I
now?
thought we had something going at 5,
Well,
but then this
that even
happened.
Yeah,
depends on the
delayed
structure that the actual municipality decides that they want to undertake. Do they want a deputy mayor?
Yeah.
What is the structure behind it? Imagine you have the authority to really do whatever the hell you want in that jurisdiction that you have.
So essentially, the mayor will kind of decide on how they want to move forward.
Wait, this is Clarkson.
Okay, that makes
So,
sense.
for example, if you're running, right, and you have, just say Mr. Chavez and Murphy are running against each other, right?
My PD soon.
Mr. Chavez on his platform says, I want to have a mayor, deputy mayor. I also want to have chief of staff, whatever the hell it is, and this is how we're going to function as a government with it. You are voting for his system with it, where Murphy might say, well, I want something that kind of represents maybe like 6 individuals here, and this is what we're going to do with our plan. It becomes a little bit more incumbent upon the person to actually put together and act a plan that is more future or forward.
This arc has been
just,
content.
Yeah, I just want to be mayor because my name gets up in lights at some election. Because guess what? You don't do anything, you're getting your ass removed.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's supposed to be like a...
You're not just voting for the person, you're voting for their cabinet, for their policies.
Yeah.
You're voting for what they stand for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To me, I feel it's cabinet's gone, or sorry, console is gone. Cabinet is the future, if that is what is desired.
Well, think about this. You may have some individuals that want to run for mayor that are probably not the most apt, I guess is the right word I would like to say for it. For example, looking at or passing legislation, they might want to have someone that says, all right, well, listen, I want you to have whatever, put the title there, I don't know, official legislative authority, whatever the hell you want to put with it. You write whatever the hell I want, right? And we agree with these things, and I want to hire this person to do this. You can give them the power to basically write the things or whatever the hell they want. Just keep in mind, if you do that, well, then they're also subject if they mess up.
Yo.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense to me. Yeah. I think the whole idea is really good. I think it cuts a lot of fat. Like I said, I'm still 50-50 on this deadlock concern, but I'm gonna wait to see what you guys cook up.
To be determined, I guess.
Mm-hmm. All right. Abby, what are you thinking? Were we missing anyone from this?
A couple players, I guess. You know.
Okay.
In the,
Do you wanna,
in the political game.
do you want to see if they're around, and then we? I'm down to like reconvene like today. like 15 minutes if they are. We do like best
I
effort.
actually don't have Roman's number. That was my original issue with trying to contact him.
Let me. Oh shit. Okay.
That's who's missing. And essentially,
I've got Roman's number if you need it.
yeah.
Well, some of the
And
conversation. I'm glad that this happened because that
You don't need to
conversation would have been.
You wanna go chat with chat really
That
quick?
Roman wasn't here.
Some of that conversation would have been thrown out the window.
I
Okay.
don't think it was.
He is currently.
He's also in Yellow Pages.
Yeah, I got his number, but the thing is, his phone's busy. Call me. Was he the only one missing?
Grace.
Grace Daniels. And who else?
And Weiss.
Who's the last one?
Ooh.
Albert Weiss, but he's not in the.
Albert
All right,
Weiss.
call me.
Who the fuck is that?
Hold on.
Oh,
is he
it's a
still
dude I seen one time. I seen that guy one time.
Yeah. He was
I
around
was like,
earlier.
who the fuck are you?
All right. Okay. So.
Okay.
All right. All right. I'm gonna see. I just sent him a text. Let me see if Grace is around. Honestly, I think a lot of the conversation can be shortened. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you get right down to it, yeah.
I do not fuck with Murphy. This fucking guy. I want to kill him right here. All right, there we go.
Well, I do worry that it won't be as well received as with some accountability, but I think a lot of the ideas for the future and focusing on that does sound wise. So I guess we'll see.
Hey, Grace.
What
Are
do
you
mean
available?
Nino.
accountability that people won't
What do
be
you need?
happy they're being held accountable?
Could
Well, I just mean
you?
in terms of like the impeachment
So
not
a meeting got
happening
pushed
and,
out because it was kind of
just
this
kinda being like,
last minute
eh.
thing with the justices. Are you and Roman available to chat?
Yeah, I mean, I think
We are available to
it's
chat if you can
understandable that
come to
there'll
us.
be a
We're in
level of
Grapeseed and we're
maybe
farming,
jadedness
so we kind of
towards
have to
all of
keep an eye on
this.
the plants. But if you're
Oh,
willing to come up to
Jesus.
us,
You
you can
know?
come up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
It
send
will
me
just kind
your
of
ping
take
number.
time, I think, for
Okay.
people to
Actually, you
regain
give me
trust.
yours and I'll ping you
Oh,
where
yeah,
the
47.
location.
People have
47. Okay,
no
I'll send that.
trust or very
All right.
little trust right now
All right.
in
All right.
the
See you soon.
DOJ,
Easy.
in the
See you
police
in a bit.
department.
Bye.
Now, a lot of stuff has
Okay.
been very compromised.
So they are available. They're up at the farm. What I can do is I will send me your ping numbers and I'll ping everyone over. And then if we're missing anyone, I will ping them as well.
All right.